Hi, I'm Dexter, and that's Tom, and we're from All I.T Services. And if you'd like to know more about us and what we do, you can visit allit.services. And today, for a segment that I'd like to call Business Stuff You Should Know, have a very special guest, Warren Harmer from the Business Plan Company. Warren, how's it going?
Hey, Dex, going well, thank you.
That's good. Firstly, before we get into it, I'd just like to say I personally love business names where you kind of know exactly what it is that they do.
Well, you know what? I had a bad business name before I had this one, and no one could ever pronounce it. And I was working with a client at the time when Google was just kind of becoming more important in business, and they had a very plain business name, and they got really good rankings out of it. So I decided I was going to follow their lead and do a very easy to understand business name.
Oh, you know what? You never told me that you actually had a different business name. Mind sharing it?
It was just a Spanish name, Crescer. And I knew how to say it because I was studying Spanish, but no one in English knew how to say it.
I think I remember that now. Crecer, is that right?
Yeah,
Crescer?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I don't mind that.
I thought I was being very because it means to grow in Spanish, which is what I was doing. But then I realized that nobody knew how to say it, so it ended up being quite a poor judgment on my behalf. But anyway, I ended up with a better business name in the end.
Maybe if you moved over there, it'd be a different story. But anyway,
Indeed.
Okay. So tell us about the Business Plan Company.
Sure. So we've been going about probably 10 years now. It kind of started because I was doing a lot of business coaching and consulting at the time, and I was getting asked to do business plans a lot. Coaching and consulting is not very scalable, and I thought, okay, well, let's give it a go, see if I can create a business just focused on business planning. There's a few other companies that do it, but the way we approached it, it brings the expertise of a team of people who've owned businesses before. So it's not just about spitting out the document. I sometimes joke with my team, I call it consulting light, because you get to do a short project with clients, sort of set people in the right direction, and then that's very helpful for them moving forward in their business life. So yeah, it's been going about 10 years or so. We've got planners in various spots around Australia. All of our team are people who've owned businesses before, so I think that's pretty important. If you're dealing with somebody who's starting a business or in small business, you need that real life experience so that you have the sort of able to understand small budgets and lack of time and kind of lack of availability to all the resources that you might have in a bigger business.
Is it any particular business that you're targeting, or all different types of businesses?
Just about the size of the business. So the projects we've done over the years is pretty diverse. It's everything from importers, exporters. I've done legal Canada.
That's okay. Let's wait till see if he comes back. And in the meantime, let's have a chat about business plans. Have you had one in the businesses that you've had?
Yeah, we've over the years we've had play with numerous plans and what have you. But I think for us it's been when people are, I've got a bit of an old saying, when people are in the same boat, picking up an oar and rowing in the same direction, magic happens. And that sort of, comes back to the business plan. Is good things happen when we're all, rowing in the same direction, and that's the plan.
So the business plan that you have for All I.T Services, is it something that you still refer back to, or is it something that you go back to and add and change, or do you go back and see where you've hit certain milestones? How does it work with the business plan for All I.T?
We run the EOS platform, which is the entrepreneurial operating system, and we modify it slightly and include the OKR process as well, which is objective and key results, and that works very, very effective for us. But a very strong component of the component is letting our team know, both new members of the team and existing, what's been developed from the leadership team. So they've got a North Star of where the business is heading. And the reason why we've included OKRs is that they have a cascading effect. So the business has objectives, teams and individuals, and that just works so effective for us.
I must say that when I first started the EOS platform and OKRs were new to me in terms of I always thought a business plan was, oh wait, it was Warren.
Yeah. But now I'm on my phone, so I think it's okay.
You know what? I think Tom knows a good IT company that can help. So maybe after this call, if you want to
yes.
take this offline, take it back. Off to you, Warren.
Okay. Where are we up to?
Business plans. I think I asked you last, if it was different types of businesses or if it was everyone or.
So look, it's small and medium business. That's our focus. In terms of what the market has wanted over the years, there's a lot of startups. I think we've ended up doing kind of 30 or 40% sort of startups over that time. I think one thing that we're probably pretty good at is working with people who are just starting off and they're just at the stage of having the idea. Look, a lot of those people are really green. They're keen about the business. They know they want to do something and what they want to do. But in terms of doing the nuts and bolts of how much does this cost? How much am I going to make? Is it worth it? What's on the market? Really putting the jigsaw pieces together for how their business might actually look. I think we've got a particular strength in that. If you look at the types of businesses over the years, it's pretty varied. I mean, we've done everything from retail, wholesale, import, export, service, allied health. I guess some of the more unusual ones we've done. I've done a brothel. I've done medical cannabis. Pretty much anything that's legal, we've done a project for over the years. But it's interesting, because even though the type of business can be very different, and the business owners and locations can be very different, really they only fall into a kind of a definite smaller number of categories. It's service, and then you're selling people's time, or it's product, or it's manufacturing, and then so within those they become reasonably predictable how the businesses work, and then also I guess one of the big things about small businesses, it's very dependent on the skills of the owner, and that varies a lot. So you need to be very mindful of that when you're putting it together. If it's going to actually work, then the skills need to be there in the business. So then in terms of projects, we've done a lot for bank loans, for investors. In the last 2 years, NDIS has been going nuts. So we've done a lot of projects for NDIS providers that are just starting off. Migration has been business migration has been a big part of our business over the years. So that's businesses that are sponsoring employees, or people who are coming here to start businesses. And we've done business plans that support those kinds of applications. In addition to some grants and tenders and a few other proposal writing that kind of support the business planning side of things.
So definitely a lot more than business plans by the sounds of it.
Yes. Look, the backbone of what we do is plans, but it's not just a document. You're not just writing. I mean, because you can get someone cheap to do that. With AI now, you could probably write a third of the plan just on ChatGPT, but it's meaningless. If you're just getting someone who has no engagement with the business, or just something that's automated, then it doesn't really mean anything. Like, you need to kind of interrogate what the business owner wants to do to make it actually something that's meaningful. And so we're not going for sort of cheapest, quick and dirty plan that's just going to tick a box. We want to really engage with the owner and create something that actually has some kind of meaning and is as accurate as you can make it.
You know what? There's a Spanish word that I know that would encompass your business perfectly. Have you heard of it? Just kidding. That AI piece is an interesting discussion, and if we have some time, it'd be interesting to further explore that, because Tom and I have been talking about AI quite a lot in a whole bunch of different industries, and you just brought it up, and we didn't even think about that. It is like AI for business plans, like that's almost box and dice, but at the same time, doesn't come with any of the expertise that you would have,
that's right,
seen through yourself.
That's right.
So that's an interesting piece.
If you look at the NDIS plan particularly, so because many of the people who are starting the NDIS provider businesses, they are people who've been working in the sector, support workers, nurses, other allied health. And so the level of training and exposure that they have to the business side of things is, I'd say, if you look at all of the clients we've had, it's kind of on the lower end, because it's just not part of what they do. The NDIS compliance is very heavy, like amongst the highest. So you come along with people who want to start a business, and they need to demonstrate to get their approval that they've really thought about how they're going to run the business, because the NDIS wants their businesses to be well run. Governance and compliance is important, and so for consistency of care delivery, then the businesses need to be well run. For those people, you can't just automate, because they really actually need the training part of it to understand what they're getting into, which is the whole point of doing the plan in the first place.
So, talk to me about what's interesting is, if you're an NDIS provider, whatever, if you're creating a business and starting a business, and I think everyone goes through the iteration of they're going to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to create a plan and a budget and all these sorts of things. They get things on the paper, and then, the realities of business, almost, I was going to say hit, but probably slap you in the face and like, okay, well, stress to the max. And then that document, although well intentioned and probably well written in a lot of instances, becomes a document that might as well have been written by AI for all instances, because it sits in the in tray and never gets looked at again. Talk me through why that happens, and someone like yourself and a business like yourself, how do you make something that was once written something tangible and usable and effective?
So look, I think you need to be realistic about how much you're going to use that ongoing, and you don't need to use all of it ongoing. So quite often when I've done these projects for people who are operating already, it's really about making sure that you're going in the right direction. So the planning process, which you might spend 2 or 3 weeks going through, looking at the market, what have they done before, what's working, what's not working. And that's kind of, I guess, the process of alignment with where you want to go with what you're doing. Once you've got that set, so a fair chunk of the plan, like looking at your competitors, digging into the market, those kinds of things, they contribute to the plan. But what you can take out of it from an ongoing business management point of view, there's a few things. So they definitely would use the budget. So that's something that any business should be doing that anyway, and I know most businesses aren't. But if you've created projections, and I like them to be reasonably detailed, not just numbers of revenue numbers, but also like how many widgets are we going to sell, what are our conversions, all the rest of it. So you've actually got a sales target for the next 12 months and cost target. So that's something you should be reviewing weekly and monthly anyway. And then the other thing that you would take out of it is like an action plan. So when you're doing your planning, you should be understanding, okay, well, what's working in the business and what's not, and be coming up with a list of projects that you would work on over the next 12 months to get your business working more effectively. And, that can be things like, we need to update our website. We need to implement a CRM, whatever it is. And I find it works best if you can break it down into chunks. So like one project per month, say, then they'll actually get done. So those are the things that you would take out into your kind of daily, weekly business management. And then all just a better clarity around where am I going and where do I need to put my time. So I'll give you an example. A project I did a few years ago was for an allied health provider. She was sort of wasting a lot of time spending money on Facebook ads, and she was getting a lot of referrals via kind of the Medicare system, which was a bit lower profit, a bit harder to manage because you needed referrals from doctors, and she really wanted to get into NDIS. So we came up with a plan. We sort of set her strategy at that time. So she knew what she had to do. She knew where she would put her efforts, where to put her money in marketing. And she went away and did that. And I spoke to her 3-4 months later, and she'd already doubled her income, because rather than wasting time spending thousands on Facebook that weren't going to work, she just didn't know what to do and where to go. And when she knew that, then she was fine to go off and kind of implement the plan herself. And away she went. And so what I find most of the time is that once business owners sort of have that clarity of where do I spend my money, what do I do, what do I focus on, then it's 80 or 90% of what you want to achieve out of the plan you get out of that. And then the rest of it, if they can be disciplined enough to do the tracking of the budgets and the action plan, then I think you can get a lot out of it.
Do you also offer kind of like the hand-holding service as well? So you mentioned the plan, and then you said that in that particular instance, the lady was happy to do it herself.
Yeah.
Do you offer a service as well where you set them and at least guide them through that process?
So look, the answer is
meetings?
yes. But I honestly, like, if they really have that clarity and they can be disciplined around it, most of the time they don't need it that frequently. But I think it's a really good idea to go back after 12 months and do the whole exercise again. So like, you wouldn't want to just do your plan and then forget about it forever and happy ever after. That doesn't work. You need to go back and kind of say, okay, we did this last year. We thought we were going here. What we actually did. This is what's happened in the market. These are the new risks. Here's our new budget. Here are the things we need to work on, and away you go again. And I think if you do that, then you can, for a small business who doesn't have that much time, if you can do that as a practice, then you're already way ahead of most of the competition.
Interesting. Another area that I find similarly to the business plan, I'd be keen to get your thoughts on is company values. I'll give you a little bit of backstory.
Okay.
We many moons ago went through a very exhaustive process of setting values, and it was hugely beneficial, and we still have the same values to this day. They still hold very true to us. However, I'll be pretty open and honest. We've had sort of, over that period of time, you sort of set them, and then they're sort of set, and you think, okay, well, they're sort of in that important document sitting on the top of the table, and then all of a sudden, a few years ago, I was listening to a number of things and received a fair bit of advice, and we hire. I wouldn't say fire is probably a little bit a harsh word, but we really run our day-to-day business on those values in terms of the projects we run, the way we treat our clients, and we expect them to treat us, and how we shape our OKRs in regards to the values, and that's just transformed our business. What's your opinion on values and businesses? Because I've been involved in businesses in the past where they write them and then they never get referred to again.
From what I've seen, most businesses that really scale are pretty good at actually using them in the business. I think the challenge is that once you get bigger, then the business owner who probably does most of those things just as habit and by default, they're not involved with everybody anymore. So I guess the incidental transfer of value drops off a little bit, and then whoever's the next person in the chain of command ends up doing whatever they want to do, and before you know it, 3 people down, no one's aligned anymore. So I think it really does work. But I also think it's at the scale of the business. Like some of the businesses that I work with, they agonize over it. But, if you're just starting off, it's probably a bit overkill, I think. I think you probably need to trade for a little while and sort of see that what you think are the values really work in practice. And then in terms of using them, I think that's where it really works, is if you can use them in your conversations about how the business is run, when you're making decisions in the business, if you can refer back to them and kind of getting everybody involved and not just leaving them sitting in a document somewhere that no one knows what they are, but actually using them kind of in the day-to-day and week-to-week. I think one of the hard things about values and visions and missions, for that matter, is making them actually a bit more specific to your business, because I've seen so many of them, and honestly, so many of them are just look the same. So I think I don't get too hung up on whether it's values or whether it's mission or vision, or I think company purpose is also good. I think if you can have a few of those that kind of work for you, I think a purpose is kind of a good thing. I think the values are a good thing, but simple and a bit unique to your business, I think, is important, because otherwise, like so many of them I see, it's honesty, it's respect, it's just, and then if everyone's got the same, then I'm not sure that kind of differentiates you from the competitors.
I think that some of them are very much, well, I think the process that we went through was that, you mentioned honesty and respect and those sorts of things. I take the view that they're sort of givens in a bit, you've got a strong moral compass, and you're employing good people, or you tend to employ good people. Those sorts of things should be, given. If you're doing the right thing by clients and your employees, and they do the right thing to those people as well, it's really what sets the business and the sector apart, and that's what sort of helped us in regards to.
I just think, I see all the time that businesses find it very hard to scale and maintain quality of service, and I think having values there helps you to do that. It's through recruitment, it's through firing people, as you say. It's about performance and coming back to those kind of core statements about your business, so that if ever there's a discussion, you can just come back to that and everybody's aligned. Something I say with my clients is that if you've got 40 people in a rowboat and they're all rowing in different directions, then you're going in a circle. Whereas everybody has clarity and they're all rowing in the same direction, well, then obviously you're going to go a lot faster. So the planning and the values, I think that helps.
We're laughing, Warren, because when you dropped off the call from a technical issue, Dexter asked me about, our plan and what have you. And I literally nearly said word for word what you said in regards to,
It's hilarious.
Up and all going in the same direction.
Yeah.
I was about to say, wow, like you sure you weren't listening to us when you,
Yeah.
because that was almost word for word. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I think all those things help. I mean, but it's hard in the day-to-day of running a business. There's a lot going on. So everyone does our best. And we're pretty much, most small and medium businesses are under-resourced. So it's, same thing with planning. I tell people, whatever works for you, then do that. Like, I'd rather somebody is doing some kind of planning than getting hung up on having a formal business plan. Like, I don't think, I think in spreadsheets. So, I've got everything that I do for my future plans. I've got, my marketing one spreadsheet and my budget another spreadsheet, because it's just that's how I think. And when I want to go back, and I will go back to that because that's how I kind of process information. And that's what works for me. So I like to think that in some ways, the business plan is actually the enemy of business planning, because people think, well, I'm never going to use that formal document, so why should I do it? But then they don't do anything. And so I'd rather you do something. It's, and it's not about the document. It's about getting your head out of the trenches of running the business and kind of looking up and saying, right, where are we going before I get sucked down back into it again? So giving that clarity of space to set the direction of the business. So when you're in the day-to-day and you need to make a decision, then you can go, oh, hang on, well, we're going there. So let's make that decision that takes us in that direction. So, if that's a flow chart, if it's a spreadsheet, if it's a 1 page, if it's a 50 page, it kind of doesn't matter unless you need to show that plan to a bank or an investor who have a very specific format they want to follow. You're better off to do something that suits you rather than nothing.
That's great advice. And it's funny that you say that, because Tom's a bit into that journey at the moment. He's sort of broken away from the BAU stuff and is focusing a lot on the business. And there's obviously some trials and tribulations there, and that's expected. But it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's what he's going through right now.
Yeah, it's one of those. We're going through a growth trajectory and all those sorts of things, and the business changes and more leaders and all that sort of thing. Warren, talk to us about a business that's mature, and obviously the startup journey is a hell of a lot different to a mature business where you've got some operational structure in terms of leaders. You've got a leader thing in with a business that's got some newly formed leaders and some new structure. What have you found best for businesses on bringing those leaders? Because obviously traditional business that grows to a certain number of people, and this happens at, I imagine, similar sizes, but not always the same. Where you get to a point where you go, okay, we either need to make the leap now before we get too big and put some leaders in place, or some businesses leave it way too long, and there's the challenges that come with that. But you're a business, hypothetically, that's got some leaders in place. They're about to set on a journey. What's your advice for a business like that in terms of getting that sort of level on the planning journey, and some advice there?
Yeah, look, I guess depending on how new they are, but getting everybody on board is very important, because ultimately they're going to be the ones that are going to be implementing it. So I think having a process, if you're setting out on a direction with a new team, doing your plan with everybody involved and everyone has buy-in, I think, is the best way to get them, so they understand, so they really are engaged with the process. And people like to have input. So if they see something there that's their own inspirations and thoughts, then it'll definitely be more proactively implemented, I think, than just giving a directive. But I think coming back to the values, I think that is important. It's very difficult, particularly for a youngish business, where a new role like that is, it's a big role in a small team. It's something that's very easy to get wrong. So I think if there's anyone in your team that you can train up to kind of take on those roles, or so with the guy that Dex and I used to do work for, I'd actually been a consultant with him for about a year before he offered me the job. So he knew me well already. So I think if you know people in your network or in your past, people who work for you already, it probably makes that transition a little bit easier than having somebody that's completely new to your business. I mean, doesn't matter how thorough you are with recruitment, it's never an exact process.
I've got a bit of an extension to Tom's question with regards to leadership. We're talking almost generational differences, especially in terms of age. Is there anything that we need to look out for? We're talking about mid-20s versus potentially late 40s, early 50s, all on the same team, all fairly new, all in different roles, and we're looking for a bit of alignment. Do you have any advice around that?
Look, I'm going to be completely honest with you and say that all of my team are 40s and 50s, so I am probably slightly out of the loop with managing younger employees. Yes, because all of my team are people who've had businesses before, and some of them multiple. So that just means that they're kind of same age as me, 50 plus.
50 plus. I didn't know you were 50 plus.
Yeah, 53.
You don't look it. There you go. Hey, I'm going to go down the AI path because I'm going to turn this into a bit of a tech talk. Have you used it? How much have you used it? How much do you think it will disrupt what you're doing and or help, I guess, now and sort of other aspects of your business?
Yeah. Look, I think so. I do use ChatGPT, but I use it as a replacement for Google. So let's say that I want to find a very specific thing and I want it presented in a very specific way. Then I would ask that question and ask for it to be presented in a way. It's like something I've never worked on before from a very niche industry, not sure. And so where I would previously have gone to Google and searched through 20 pages to find some reference material that I want, then I think ChatGPT just cuts down the time like significantly. So if you look at, in terms of how it will affect my industry, so if you look at business planning, I'd say kind of on the lower end, the cheaper end, you could get a free template that you can just do yourself. And then there's a range of services there where they're really focused on just kind of spitting out the document. There's some software that does that already. There's companies that outsource it to countries overseas or to students or whatever. So I think the AI will definitely affect that part of the market because the people buying those plans just want the cheapest. They just want to tick the box, get it done, download a template, change the names. I mean, I've got some kind of free templates and examples on my website that I've got for clients to download if they want. I've had clients send back to me. So sometimes I get clients to send me their version of the plan, like, and I'll do an edit and, we can help them or not. That sometimes happen. I've had people send back to me pretty much the exact template that's on our site, and I've just changed the names. So AI will affect those people, those businesses. Then for where we sit, probably a little bit, like probably more price conscious, but for the work that we do, as I'm talking about, we don't just spit out the document. So for those clients who are looking for someone who actually want genuine kind of engagement with the business and want to get something more out of the plan than just ticking a box, then I'd say we're probably okay.
So who would be your ideal client? Is it a new business, a new company, a mature one? Like who do you love working with the most?
Look, I like variety. I mean, one of the things I like about doing this work is because the projects are a bit shorter and we've got a lot of projects going on at once. The variety of understanding about different industries is probably what I like. So it's quite good working with brand new businesses and the ones that are kind of just really, really starting off. But they tend to take a little bit longer, and depending on the personality of the client, sometimes getting information out of them can be a bit slower or more difficult versus, say, a migration project where you just get the brief and say, okay, we've got a client that wants to do ABC, here's all their stats, and then you'll go and write the plan pretty much, with much less involvement. So both of those are quite good. I probably prefer kind of smaller to medium businesses and not too big, I guess, because I did consulting for a while, and just because I've just done enough of that, I quite like the projects where it's finished, to set people in the right direction and then do another one. And then variety of businesses is good because, learning about a new business, which is something that I like, if I haven't done that before, then that kind of keeps me interested in the projects because there's always something new that I'm learning. So you end up with kind of a library of information about different markets. And like I just did one about some guys that are they're launching a mobile phone in Africa. So, yes, there's a whole stack of stuff I didn't know about what the markets are like there, what smartphones are popular there. Where do you even get a mobile phone to sell, as a vendor, like all that stuff. So that was quite interesting to be able to work on something that's so kind of completely foreign to me. I quite enjoy kind of finding all that stuff out.
Yeah, so what interests me, you set someone on a plan and they run off and do it and, hopefully, the best. When you check in with people, what are the big challenges sort of, in recent years that's, you come back and are there themes where you come back? Is it capacity, people? Is it the general ones or is they?
Just in general, small business overall, I would say people's expectations around how they're going to market the business, I'd say, is generally a fair bit removed from reality. Like, I think many people expect just to kind of go on to Google Ads or Facebook ads and they'll be off and running. That works for some industries, but because it takes longer. Building a brand takes years. So I think that is quite often it's more difficult for many businesses than they expect. Just a general financial management overall, I think that's not great in small business. And so I think that's, whether the income's high or low, managing profits and margins is not something that most small businesses get a lot of training on, or, so I think they kind of are, pedaling pretty furiously to kind of get on top of that, and just very often caught out because there was a tax bill they didn't realise, or they had to pay super or whatever, things like that they weren't sort of expecting.
Is it an optics thing, or is it a process thing, or is it, when I say optics, is is it decent reporting, or is it?
I don't think it's just it's awareness and skill. The business owner's already juggling like crazy, and then you get in and you're running your business, and then the accounts are not generally kind of priority. They're just sort of happening in the background. Someone's sort of stuffing money, numbers into QuickBooks, and so they sort of hope that that's okay. But there's just so much going on for people who aren't used to looking at that. Then I think that's probably the financials is probably the thing that catches them out the most, because when it's not kind of super well run, then there's nasty surprises that come along with a BAS or a super that you weren't kind of expecting, and that's very stressful.
It's funny how, when I hear the words business plan, I always think of something that is in the beginning, or something that's kind of overarching to the business. Like, here's the business plan. This is a new business. But the more that I talk to you, and funny because I've known you for many years, Warren, the term business plan now just is basically a business plan within the business, not so much this overarching piece of paper that is to govern your entire company from now to selling. It's almost like, well, I need a business plan to bring more people in, or to start this part of the business. Like, you'll just have all these little plans within it. Yep. Not just that one at the very start.
Yeah, that's right. And it's dynamic. They're not set in stone. And I think if it is sitting in someone's drawer and they're not looking at it, then it's not really being done properly, because it's a process, not a kind of. I like to talk about planning rather than the plan, because it's a practice that you should be doing in the business.
Talk us through the success stories, mate. Like, in terms of, you've done a business plan, you've set them on their course, and you've just seen people flourish. Because I love hearing about success stories. What's set them apart, and what are is it been the small things, is it the big things? Or maybe talk us through some examples.
I think it's probably discipline is the biggest thing. Because look, most people who are in business, they probably know what to do, but most people aren't doing it in terms of being super structured around meetings and reporting and review and planning. Best practice that really enables people to grow. It's about the review and the iteration of the business based on data, on actual results. So if you're disciplined around that, and that really, to me, that really propels you forward. Like, to know what's going on like a P&L is one thing to kind of measure the performance of the business, but it's one of 20 or 30 numbers that you should be looking at on a weekly and monthly basis. And how many web visitors have you got? How many followers have you got? What are your conversions? What's your average sale? What's your non-billable time? Like all of those things are the leading indicators into your final financial performance. If you're on top of all of those things on a regular basis, then it really sets you up for success. Those initial plans don't always lead to businesses. And I see that equally as a success if we go through a process of looking about how a business might look and someone gets to the end and say, well, actually, that's not for me. I consider that equally a success as somebody starting the business. Because there's been many times where somebody was all excited to do something, we did the plan, and then they decided not to do it. Like one of my clients a month or so, I was doing a project with him, and we did one about a year ago. He was thinking about doing something in logistics. And when I saw him last time, I said, how did it go? You were kind of very excited to get going. And he said, thank you so much for doing the plan. You saved me $300,000. So I didn't do it. So for me, that's equally a success. Particularly for a startup, or if you're in business and you're thinking of, doing some kind of expansion or getting a site or going into a new market, then you really need to do your due diligence before you do that. And I think small businesses is risky, like as an investment point of view. And I don't think people always give it the same due diligence as they would other types of investments, particularly new small business.
So what's the future for the business plan company? Just keep on doing?
Yeah, so
the plans is different?
Ticking along, but also I'm working on a membership program for small businesses that's going to be live in the next month or so. So most small businesses, even though they have a lot of questions and they need help and guidance, don't engage professional advice on this kind of thing. They don't want to pay, or they don't kind of see the value in it. So the idea behind the Business Owner Club is that it'll be an online resource site where people can pay a pretty nominal fee, and there'll be tools and templates. We're going to get some experts on, do some webinars, build some connections and community. And so for people starting or operating small businesses, it'll become a bit of a hub for questions, answers, tools, information. So, things pop up when you're running your business all the time, and you just wish you had somebody to kind of go and ask, and then you'll go on and run the business, But so the idea is that it'll become the place for that.
It's a bit of a situation with businesses. I often say it can be a bit of a lonely world.
Yeah.
In a lot of senses, and sometimes you're in the middle of the trenches. We've all been there in small business, or anyone that's run a small medium-sized business, and you sort of, the world, you can feel the weight of the world on you, and it's sometimes nice to just be able to almost speak or hear from peers, I suppose, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's important. Yeah, to have that. So that's my new project, business plan company will still keep going, but the Business Owner Club. So the site's actually kind of live at the moment, but I'm still adding it in context. I'm not doing any marketing yet, so in the next few months I'll start doing some promo. I'll probably come back to you guys and get some collaboration on the IT side of things.
Absolutely, sounds like a lot of fun. Be sure to send us the links. I'd be curious to have a look at what it's like. I think you showed me about 6 months ago, and I saw some of the content. I love the branding. I've had a bit of a sneak peek, Tom, and the branding's pretty sharp. So it's it'd be something that would have been good when I was running my business. It like Tom's right. It is kind of lonely there, even if you've got a network around of people. As much as you want to think that you can do it alone, or even have the capacity to tap someone on the shoulder, you're always mindful of their time as well. Like, they're probably just as stressed as well running their own business. So the last thing you want to do is try and give them your stress whilst at the same time they're stressing about their own business.
They don't always know, like it's just, if you've got a very specific question that you need someone who's an expert in that field to answer, or, if you need to go Google something, it's just what we want to do is just to be able to anyone to go to the site and kind of put in a question and find an answer that's been written for a small business owner.
I think that it's good to have these conversations about plans and drilling into them and making sure that they're not something that, as we said at the top, is put in a pile and not looked at again. And there's a lot of value in them, as we were saying when you were off, that we've done them. We found plan. We've still got plans, and they're a constant evolution. And we've
absolutely. That's it. It's a process, not a destination.
I think you learn. How to as you go on, you'll learn how to utilise them and become a little bit more accountable to them, and finding the time and the discipline. For me, it's the 1%ers and the discipline. So
look, as I say, it's you've got to do one that works for you, for your style.
Yeah. Awesome.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Where can people contact you? If you want to contact you, of course.
businessplancompany.com.au or hello@businessplancompany.com.au. But there's numbers and emails and everything on my website.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks, Warren.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Take care.
Thanks, Warren.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.